The Galactic Assembly Hall was silent, only for a moment. Then the shouting began. Delegates from across the galaxy argued loudly. Words in different languages echoed off the tall silver walls. The room was shaped like a giant circle, with rows of floating seats rising up like steps. At the center, under a bright beam of light, sat Commander Zarek Thorn. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He simply watched. Zarek was the human ambassador. For 10 years, he had sat in that same seat, listening to these same voices. Every week, there was a new problem. A border fight, a broken treaty, a trade dispute, and every time, they turned to the humans to fix it. Humans had become the galaxy's glue. They made peace when others wanted war. They built bridges between species who couldn't even speak the same language. They were called diplomats, but really, they were caretakers, babysitters, problem solvers. And Zarek had had enough. His dark uniform was clean, sharp, and marked with Earth's emblem. A single blue star. His face was calm, but his eyes were tired. Not from lack of sleep, but from years of holding everything together. An aide leaned close and whispered, "The Draari just rejected the new peace deal. Again." Zarek didn't answer. He already knew. He had seen the pattern. Talk, argue, blame the humans, repeat. "Are you sure about this?" The aide asked softly. Zarek looked at him and gave a single nod. "It's time." He pressed the button on his seat. A soft chime rang through the hall. The voices stopped. Every eye turned toward him. Zarek stood slowly. He looked around at the hundreds of delegates, some human-like, some with scales or feathers or glowing eyes, all waiting for him to speak. He took a deep breath. "For over 200 years," he began, "humans have served this galaxy. We have helped solve your conflicts, defend your borders, and build your treaties." He paused. The room was silent. "But from this moment forward, Earth is stepping down. We will no longer act as diplomats, warriors, or peacekeepers. We are withdrawing from all galactic roles, effective immediately." Gasps filled the hall. Some delegates began to murmur. Others shouted, "You can't just leave." A voice from the Corellian sector yelled. "This is madness," barked a Draari commander. "You hold this place together," shouted a small reptilian ambassador. Zarek didn't flinch. He looked calm, steady. "We held it together," he said. "Now, it's your turn." He stepped down from the platform. His aide followed quickly, nervous, glancing back at the storm of voices rising again. Zarek didn't look back. He walked out of the assembly hall without another word. The doors slid shut behind him. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light. Earth has walked out. Zarek Thorn's words echoed in every system. His speech was replayed on every screen. Some refused to believe it. Others went into full panic. In every corner of the galaxy, leaders called emergency meetings. Trade ministers sent urgent messages. Military commanders prepared for unrest. Inside the human embassy aboard the Galactic Assembly Station, Zarek stood by a large window. The stars outside looked calm. But he knew better. Behind him, the room buzzed with activity. Aides rushed back and forth, packing files, shutting down communication lines, locking up diplomatic channels. The Earth flag was being lowered from the tall silver pole at the front of the embassy. Zarek's aide, Jonas, approached with a data tablet. He looked worried. "Zarek, we've received over 300 calls in the last hour," Jonas said. "Everyone wants to talk. The Velari Council is begging for a response. The Andari Trade Union is warning about collapses. And the Draari." He paused. "They're furious." Zarek didn't turn around. He kept looking at the stars. "Let them talk," he said quietly. Jonas frowned. "We've always answered. We've always helped." "And what did that give us?" Zarek asked. He finally turned to face Jonas. "Endless responsibility. Endless blame. No thanks. No support, just expectations. Jonas lowered his eyes. Still, walking out like this, it's going to break a lot of things. Zarek nodded. It needs to break. Maybe then they'll understand what we were holding together. Outside the embassy, the assembly station was in chaos. Delegates argued in corridors. Some tried to form new alliances on the spot. Security bots moved in to stop fights. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Assembly felt fragile. In the Draari sector, Archenvrex watched the footage of Zarek's speech with a cold smile. "So," he muttered, "the humans are finally gone." He leaned back in his chair, the red lights of his control room reflected in his silver eyes. "To all sectors," he ordered, "send a message. The Draari Empire is ready to provide leadership in the absence of Earth." His generals nodded. Vrex's plan had begun. Back in the human embassy, Zarek sat down at his desk. The room was almost empty now. Just a few staff remained, quietly finishing the shutdown. He opened a private message from Earth. The president had replied, "We stand by your decision. Come home." Zarek closed the screen and looked around the office one last time. The shelves were bare. The banners were down. The voice of Earth was going silent. He stood up, took a deep breath, and walked toward the exit. No more speeches, no more negotiations, no more saving the galaxy. Earth had stepped away. Now the galaxy would feel it. The Galactic Assembly had lost its balance. Without Earth, the structure that held peace and order began to fall apart. In the weeks after Zarek Thorn's announcement, systems across the galaxy slipped into confusion. The Valeri refused to trade with the Andari. The Corellians started building weapons again. The border between the Draari Empire and the Tellan Alliance became a war zone. Delegates at the assembly tried to continue their work, but meetings turned into shouting matches. No one could agree on anything. No one trusted anyone. And worst of all, no one knew what to do without the humans. Zarek's empty seat remained at the center of the assembly. Some wanted it removed. Others wanted to keep it there, as a reminder. Either way, the silence from Earth was louder than any voice in the room. Far away, in the dark sector of space ruled by the Draari Empire, Archenvrex sat in his command chamber. He watched the galaxy unravel with calm satisfaction. A hologram of the assembly map hovered in front of him. Red lights blinked in places where treaties had collapsed. Yellow lights showed tension. Several systems had already reached out to the Draari for support. Vrex turned to his advisors. "Now we act," he said. The humans were the wall. Now that wall is gone. He sent ships to the weaker systems, first with messages of protection, then with threats. Some planets quickly agreed to Draari terms, fearing war. Others tried to resist, but without Earth to back them up, they had no real power. Vrex spoke at a press conference broadcast across hundreds of systems. He stood tall in his crimson armor. "The galaxy needs leadership," he declared. "And the Draari Empire is ready to lead." His voice was calm but firm, wrapped in false promises. Many believed him. Others feared him. But one thing was clear. He was filling the space humans had left behind. Back on Earth, Zarek watched the broadcast from his home. He sat alone in a quiet room, lights dimmed, the screen glowing in the dark. Vrex's speech ended. The screen faded to black. Zarek stared at it for a long moment. Then he stood up, walked to the window, and looked out at the Earth's night sky. The stars twinkled peacefully, but he knew trouble was growing in the space between them. Jonas called him later that evening. "You've seen the news?" he asked. Zarek didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Yes, Vrex is moving fast." "We're getting calls again," Jonas said, "from planets asking for advice. Some want help, others just want to talk. They miss us, Zarek." "We told them we were done," Zarek said. Jonas paused. "And if they're walking toward war?" Zarek didn't respond. He looked back at the stars. The galaxy was breaking. and he wasn't sure if walking away had saved it or made things worse. Commander Zurich Thorne stood on a high cliff in the mountains of northern Earth. The sky was clear. The air was cold. Far below, a quiet city rested by the sea, its lights blinking like stars. He had returned home, but his mind was still in space. The galaxy was burning. He had seen the reports. Draari warships had taken over 2 neutral colonies. The Terran alliance was breaking apart. The Velari and Andari had sent fleets to the same sector, both claiming it. Talks at the assembly had stopped. No one trusted anyone anymore. And through it all, Earth remained silent. Inside the Earth government building, Zarek sat across from the president. "You knew this would happen," she said softly. "Yes," Zarek replied. "But knowing and watching are not the same." "We can still help," she said. "Maybe send a team. Maybe reach out." "No," Zarek said firmly. "If we go back too soon, we'll be stuck again. Nothing will change. They have to feel what it means to stand on their own." The president looked uncertain. "And if they fall?" Zarek looked her in the eye. "Then they fall. We can't keep saving everyone." Later that night, Zarek walked through the Earth Embassy's old hallways. The place had become quiet since the shutdown. Diplomatic offices were empty. Doors were sealed. Maps of the galaxy still hung on the walls, showing routes now broken or unsafe. He stopped at a window and stared out at the stars. "Feels strange, doesn't it?" a voice said behind him. Zarek turned. An old friend stood there, Ambassador Ryavallen, from the planet Arvin. She was tall, calm, with silver eyes and smooth blue skin. They had worked together for years. "Ray," Zarek said, surprised. "I didn't expect to see you on Earth." "I had to come," she said. "The assembly is lost without you." Zarek shook his head. "They relied too much on us. It wasn't healthy." "They relied on you because you held peace together," Ray said gently. "And now, Vrex is rising. He's not just filling the space you left. He's taking it over." Zarek looked away. "They have to decide for themselves what kind of galaxy they want." "And what if they choose wrong?" Ray asked. "What if they choose fear?" Zarek didn't answer right away. He stared out the window again. After a long pause, he said, "I don't want to lead them. I just want them to learn." Rai walked closer. "Then speak, not as a leader, not as a soldier, but as a voice. Sometimes that's enough." She handed him a small holodisc. "You may want to see this." Zarek activated it. A secret recording played. Vrex speaking with his generals. Plans to invade 3 more colonies. False promises, manipulation, threats. "This is your proof," Rai said. "You don't need to go back to war. You just need to show them the truth." Zarek looked at the disc in his hand. Maybe this wasn't about leading. Maybe it was about warning. He nodded slowly. "I'll speak. One last time." The stars outside still burned, but Zarek had made a choice. He wouldn't save the galaxy, but he wouldn't stay silent either. The Galactic Assembly Hall was more tense than ever. Empty seats outnumbered filled ones. The Velari had left. The Andari sent only a low-level officer. The Terran Alliance stopped responding altogether. At the center of it all stood Archon Vrex. He no longer pretended to be peaceful. Wearing full battle armor, he addressed the few delegates who remained. Behind him, a large screen showed footage of Draari ships surrounding a peaceful colony called Elan II. The colony had no army. It had been neutral for over 100 years. Vrex's message was clear: "Join us, or be taken. You have no protector now." Vrex said coldly, "Earth is gone. Follow the Draari, and you will survive. Resist, and you will be forgotten." The delegates looked at each other in silence. Some were afraid. Some were angry. None of them spoke. Then, a small chime echoed through the hall. A voice announced, "Incoming transmission. From Earth." The room froze. Zarek Thorn appeared on the central screen, calm and focused. He wore no military uniform, just simple clothes and the Earth emblem on his chest. "I'm not here to return," he began. "And I'm not here to lead. I'm here to tell the truth." He raised a small holodisc and activated it. The recording played for all to see. Vrex's voice filled the room. "Let them fight each other. We will offer peace, then take control. Once they're weak, we strike." Quickly and without warning, gasps filled the hall. A few delegates stood in shock. One of them, from the Neri Federation, shouted, "Is this true?" Vrex stepped forward, voice tight. "This means nothing. That recording is fake, human lies." But the damage was done. Zarek continued, "We warned you what would happen. Earth did not leave because we were weak. We left because we were tired of holding everything together alone. But this cannot be allowed." He paused, then added, "You don't need Earth. You need each other. Stand together, or fall one by one." The screen went dark. A long silence followed. Then, one by one, delegates stood and spoke. "We reject Draari control. We demand Vrex be removed from the assembly. We will protect Elan too." Vrex growled, but he saw the shift. Power was slipping. His threats no longer worked. His lies no longer held. The assembly voted, quickly, for once. Vrex was stripped of power. His warships were ordered to leave neutral space. A joint task force was formed, not led by Earth, but by all. Back on Earth, Zarek watched the live feed as the vote passed. He said nothing, just exhaled slowly. Jonas entered the room. "You did it." "No," Zarek said. "They did." For the first time in a long while, the galaxy had stood without Earth and chosen peace. Weeks had passed since the fall of Archon Vrex. The galaxy was still bruised, but something had changed. For the first time in decades, the Galactic Assembly met without human leadership, and it worked. The remaining species began to talk, not shout. Plans were made to protect neutral colonies. Peacekeeping duties were shared among different worlds. It wasn't perfect. Disagreements still happened. Tensions still rose. But the fear that had taken hold after Earth's exit was gone. In its place was something new: responsibility. On Earth, Zarek Thorn walked through the now quiet halls of the human embassy. The doors were unlocked again, but the offices remained mostly empty. Earth had no plans to return to the assembly. Zarek stood in the same room where he had once watched the galaxy burn. Now he watched it heal. Jonas entered, holding a small report. "The assembly sent us a message," he said. "They've officially created a shared leadership system. No single species in charge. Each voice has equal weight." Zarek nodded. "That's what it should have been all along." "They asked if we'd like to send an observer," Jonas added. "Not a leader. Just a listener." Zarek smiled slightly. "Maybe. One day. But not now." Outside, the city lights of Earth glowed warmly under a peaceful sky. People walked the streets without fear. Children played in the parks. Ships flew quietly overhead. Zarek stepped onto a balcony. The stars above were bright and endless. Somewhere out there, peace was being rebuilt. Not by Earth, but by those who had finally learned to stand without it. Rai Valen sent him a short message from Arvin. "We're trying. Thank you for giving us the space to learn." Zarek replied simply, "You're welcome. You never needed us. You just needed time." The next morning, Zarek walked through the embassy garden. Trees swayed gently. Birds sang. A reminder that peace didn't always need noise. Sometimes silence was stronger. Jonas caught up with him. "Do you think they'll be okay?" Zarek looked up at the sky one last time. "They'll have to be," he said. "It's their turn now." He walked on, hands in his pockets, head high. The stars no longer needed a guardian.